Hey guys, we're jumping back in here. If you don't remember where you left off in the last segment or the last part, go ahead and go back and listen to it again, or just if nothing else, listen to the very end of it so you're kind of keeping in track here. I will include a little bit from the previous episode so that we can stay on track. Otherwise, let's get back into it. See you at the end. Bye.
Team 1, stand by. Copy. Team 1, standing by. Breach, breach, breach.
And I kind of feel like my own thoughts on the stigma of mental health and public safety kind of come out on that one. So there you go. It happens just that easy. If a person talks about feeling trapped or having unbearable pain, guys, it doesn't have to be a physical pain. They don't have to suffer an injury to feel like they've got unbearable pain. Those of you that have dealt with loss, those of you that have dealt with heartache and heartbreak and things like that, there's pain involved in that. There can be that metaphysical pain or even the physiological development of pain in someone's chest when they're experiencing, extreme depression, extreme sadness, any of that stuff, a broken heart. They can have a physiological manifestation of pain in their chest over something that's going on in their mind. So it's not something that's, blasé. It's true. It's real. So if they're talking about unbearable pain, that may be something that they're talking about. It doesn't have to be they dislocated a shoulder or they broke a bone or they did this, that, and the other. It could be a physiological pain that has developed over something that's going through their mind or something that they're dealing with. So that's something to keep in mind when you're helping with these things, or when you're just in general conversation. Start paying attention, start listening to what these individuals are saying. And guys, that's one of the biggest things. Listen to what these people are telling you. It may be just a general conversation about absolutely nothing. I'll tell you from personal experience, I have disguised things that were going through my mind by telling stories about other individuals. And that was my way of trying to talk about it, trying to test the waters to see if it was okay to talk, by disguising things that I was thinking about in conversations I was having. Pay attention, listen to what these people are telling you, listen to what they're saying, because they could be calling out, they could be saying something to you. Listen to it. I'm telling you guys, you don't want to be the one that's left behind looking, saying, what did I miss? There's too many questions, and you don't want to be a part of that. You don't want to be a part of that particular thing. So moving away from that we're going to move away from that. What are things that can be done to help with this? I think it was 2 years ago, and this is just one that I came across just in my own life, that when I watched it, I wasn't going through anything. Honestly, I think I was just trying to get some post credit for the year. But it seemed like an interesting topic. So I'm like, yeah, I'll pick that one. It was an online thing. The Georgia Public Safety Training Center has a video, and you don't get any credit for it, for watching it. But it is one that I cannot recommend for those of us in public safety enough to actually attend. And all of us in public safety in Southeast Georgia, the Georgia Public Safety Training Center here in Southeast Georgia, it may be online, or it is online, but you may be able to get it anywhere online. So the Georgia Public Safety Training Center, we call it GPSTC. They've got a class on there, or a video on there, called Start the Conversation. And that's something that they talk about. They talk about just that, starting the conversation. It's a compilation of professionals and those in the public safety community talking about people in their lives that they lost, or things that they dealt with individually and how they overcame them, and why it's important to start that conversation. Just like we talked in the last episode, when I said that my friends, didn't know how to talk to me. And my statement in that one was, just talk to me, just be there, say something, talk to me. Start the conversation. And that's what that video is. So those of us in the public safety community, we can go online to the Georgia Public Safety Training Center, log in with our credentials, and register for that particular class. Like I said, you don't get credit for it. You don't have to be a cop. You don't have to be a firefighter. You don't have to be EMT. You don't have to be in corrections. If you're in the public safety community and you fall under GIPSTIC, you can go online and register for this thing and watch it. And I can't recommend it enough, just because it talks about some things that I know personally I'd seen, personally I experienced, so it resonated with me really well. And those of you that are in this job, in this career, I guarantee you it's going to resonate with you. I guarantee you there's going to be something in that video that's going to make you go, holy crap, because it did me. So I'm fairly certain, I'm very confident that it's going to do the same for you. It's going to help you learn the importance of starting that conversation. Okay. So the research has also shown that there's an additional, there were 10 recommendations on how to address issues with mental health and public safety. And I'm just going to kind of run through these because they're good, but they take a lot more than just a general conversation. They take a lot more on an organizational basis than you or I individually can do by ourselves. We can obviously help get it started and push it forward and things like that, but it takes something more on an organizational standpoint to kind of initiate some of these things. But 10 recommendations are centralized mental health resources, whether it's in your departments or a facility. I'll say a facility, a therapist or whatever that's in your community. Centralized, one place that they can go for mental health resources. Maybe if you don't have a place in your agency to have a mental health professional, like most, at least one person who is the go-to person, or one department that's the go-to department for seeking mental health resources. Maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a psychiatrist, a psychologist, maybe it's just a behavioral therapist. Who knows? There's 1,001 different professions within the mental health community. One place that any individual in your agency can go to, one place or one person they can go to get these resources. So if they do decide to want to move outside the stigma and start getting that help, they know where to go. Because often enough times, individuals don't seek it because they don't know where to start. I can't tell you how many scenes I've been on when I'm talking with somebody. Well, I don't even know how to get started. Well, good thing I'm here today, because I'm going to help you with that. We're going to try to get you some help. My coworkers have heard me say that. And it's because people get confused. They're going through something and it doesn't dawn on them to just look it up themselves. And some of us may crack jokes about it or whatever the case is. But the truth of it is these individuals are going through a crisis right now, and it doesn't dawn on them. Some of the things that are the simplest in the world to us during our stable minds just doesn't dawn on them. Just does not dawn on them. So they wind up needing help and getting it. So having that resource is important. Another one was partner with mental health organizations. So your agency can partner with local mental health facilities or mental health providers to provide periodic or regular services or whatever the case is. I know my agency has partnered with a mental health company. I don't know if it's a company or if it's an individual, but a mental health aspect in doing fit for duty evaluations, mental health evaluations, things like that. And then they can make recommendations to the agency, to the individual, about further help if needed or whatever the case may be. But your agency, my agency, can partner with one to help provide that particular one. And I don't know if this other one that we've partnered with actually can do that, or if that's part of the contract of them providing that service. But it's at least a start. They can, all your agencies can wind up, or all the agencies can wind up partnering with some mental health profession or professional to help provide these services. Another thing that was suggested was collecting data on officer suicides, on suicides that are public safety related. Well, fortunate enough for us, because in 2016, the federal government decided to make it a priority. Those things are being done now. Now, granted, they're on a national basis. A lot of the statistics, I say a lot, several of the statistics I got for this particular episode came from a website called First Help. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But First Help is one of those organizations that's trying to help public safety, and they collect all this data. They're going and, they're looking across the nation to collect this data on public safety suicides and things like that. So collecting that data, but in specific, what this particular recommendation is trying to keep a data on a more local basis. So data within your own agency or within your own county or what have you, keeping that data more local, so that as a much more smaller organization, you've got a better understanding about what's going on in your community, in your agency, what have you. So start collecting that data. Prepare lateral transfers for critical incidents. I definitely had to look into that one. And all that one basically was when an individual lateral transfers from one agency to your agency, preparing them for how things are going to be different there, preparing them for what they're going to see in your community versus what they saw in their community, because it does change. Even with the next county over, things can be vastly different. One county to the right it has a more major city than ours. Even further to the south of us, or to the north of us, it's even less. It's even more rural. It's a much bigger county, but it has way less of the stuff that we have going on, because it's so much more of a rural area. They don't get the same thing. If they do, it's on a much smaller scale. So prepare those lateral transfers for what they're going to be experiencing when they come to your agencies. Recognize the impacts of understaffing in agencies. And guys, this one's huge. Everywhere in public safety right now is overtaxed. Everywhere in public safety, folks are being overworked and dealing with things that are so much more because they're so short-staffed. These individuals are getting overworked. It doesn't matter if it's dispatch, communications, law enforcement, fire department, EMS. Across the board in public safety, we're so understaffed that all the people are overworked. They're not getting enough rest. They're not getting enough downtime to decompress and move away from it. So they're legitimately just getting absolutely overworked with everything that's going on. And that's something that has to be kept track of. Recognizing the impacts of understaffing is huge. I've told my guys before, when they wanted to pick up so much overtime, okay, you can take it because they're offering it, but I'm going to keep an eye on you. And if I start to see that this is starting to affect your work on your normal duty days, I'm cutting you off. You're not going to be working. I'm sorry that you may need the money, but I'm cutting you off because I need you at 100% when you're out here, because it makes a difference in your safety and the people you're dealing with safety and your team safety. It makes a difference. So I need you on level with the rest of us. So if I start seeing it's affecting you, you're done. You're going to back off it for a little while. You're going to take some rest time. You're going to take some time to decompress and everything like that. Something that I personally watch for. I know the needs of the agency, but at the same time, I'm not willing to risk one of my subordinates for the needs of the agency in that regard. I'm not going to do it, because if I lose that resource, whether they go through burnout and they wind up taking time off, whether, God forbid, they wind up committing suicide, or they do something reckless and get themselves hurt, now the agency as a whole suffers, because now we're a person down. Now we've lost a coworker. Now this, that, and the other. The impact of that individual not getting that time off is much larger than the impact of us not having somebody to fill a spot. So it's important. That to me is one that's very important. Like I said, I practice it myself with my guys, and women. Another one was improve organizational culture. That one's a pretty big one too. A lot of different things going on with that one, and that's not something that I'm going to get into right now. But the culture within your organization, and those of you that work in public safety know exactly what I'm talking about. That organizational structure, that organizational culture can create stress on itself. You know what? Hell with it. I will mention one thing. The aspect of people being treated differently. That's the one that I've heard the most of. People being treated differently. Everybody being expected to play by the same set of rules, follow the same regulations, but things being applied to individuals differently based on how they're viewed in their relationships with other individuals at the agency. Okay, favoritism. That is one that I have heard the most of in public safety, and that is so demoralizing to the individuals that are working at these agencies. That kills them just as much as everything else that they have to deal with. It weighs on their mind just as much, because it's the old rules for thee but not for me thing. And that really just kind of beats people down, creates a huge stressor. So in this recommendation, yeah, that's one that can definitely make a difference. Improve your organizational culture. Start making it to where everybody sees and feels like they're on a level playing field with everyone else. That's going to make a difference in that individual's life. Relationships with research organizations, research inside departments, getting a feel of the mental health of the general organization. That's something that's recommended. Develop safety protocols. This one's going to be a little tough, just on the fact of there's the stigma that we spoke about. People are going to, if people start having to go through these protocols, they're going to start feeling like, okay, well, now my business is getting put out there. Everybody's going to know. Now I'm going to fall victim to the stigma that comes along in public safety. Doesn't need to be that way. That's part of changing the organizational culture, like we were just speaking about. It's not just about favoritism, but changing the culture and helping remove the stigma from the agency. That's where these safety protocols come in. When you've got someone who you've identified as going through a mental health crisis or has developed a behavioral health condition, changing the organizational culture and to accepting that these things do happen and people are okay by not being okay. They just need some help, and putting these safety protocols in place. So once you identify, hey, come in and let's have a talk. And then during that, you're like, hey, look, we know you're going through some things. We're here for you. We understand, and we want to help you out with it. Here's some things we'd like to do. We're going to ask you to do these things so that we can move forward, and making sure that that individual understands this isn't a punishment, but it's a supportive measure, that they know that you're there for them as an agency, and you're going to be able to help them navigate what they're going through so that they can be more successful, they can be more happy in their lives, and start moving forward in this career like they were wanting to do when they started. So that's something that can help. Educate departments on evidence-based practice. I can't speak on this one enough. Those of us, especially in public or in law enforcement, we thrive on evidence. That's what we look for. We look for evidence on everything we do anytime there's a reported crime. But yet, when it comes to evidence-based practices, things that science and things like that have shown are effective, we're resistant to it. Oh, well, that's not something that we have to deal with. Well, yes, it is. You've got individuals working for you as well. They're all subject to the same things that everyone else is. So yeah, as a matter of fact, you do. As a matter of fact, you do got to worry about it. So that's something that needs to be improved on, is educating departments on those evidence-based practices so that they can see that the research supports these different changes, these different ways of doing things that can yield better results for the agency, not just the individual. So that's another one. And then, guys, I can't express this one enough, just because I have used this myself, just in the general stresses that come with life and come with the job. Peer-to-peer, peer-to-peer support. So talking with other people that we're close to. We talk to each other about so many things in our careers that the mere fact that we're not having conversation with these individuals about what's going on in our lives and what's affecting us is absolutely amazing. We can talk about some of the most horrendous and horrific scenes in the world, but we can't talk to each other about what's going on in our minds. We can't talk to each other about what we're feeling. That's absurd. Absolutely absurd. You're a human being. You have emotions, you have feelings, you have thoughts. You need someone else that you can bounce this stuff off of to help you, And often enough, I have found that it helps when it's someone that's experienced the same thing. It helps when it's someone else that has been through that same stretch of mud or mud just like it and come out on the other side. It helps to talk to that individual because they come out, look, I get it. I know what you're going through. I've been there. It sucks. Here's how I got through it. I went through it and this is what I did. Or maybe you just need someone to talk to. Maybe you need somebody that you can bend their ear and get some things off your chest. That's one thing that's been said to me. Sarge, I need to get something off my chest. All right, go ahead with it. What you got? That's what it was. They needed to get some things off their chest. They called me just to vent to me about something that was going on or something that was stressing them out. And that's all they needed. They didn't need advice. They didn't need me to do something. They just needed to be able to frustrate. They needed to, or get out their frustrations. They needed to be able to just vent about what was affecting them so that they felt better. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes it's simple as that. Sometimes it's more. But we've got to start using this peer-to-peer support. We've got to show our brothers and sisters that we're there for them. That regardless of anybody else in this world is here for them, we got them. The whole "I got your six" thing. Let's make that real. Let's make that real, not just in dealing in critical incidents. Let's make it real when everything's calm and we're just sitting around not doing a thing. If you got my six, then get my six because I got yours. Make it a real thing. It's just not just situational. We're all doing the same stuff, different aspects often enough, but we're all doing the same stuff. But if you're going to follow the whole "I got your six" thing, then do it. It's not just situational. It's all the time. Somebody's got something going on with their life, be there for them. Listen to them. Hear what they've got to say. That's what we do. Why are we so willing to help everybody else in the community, but we're not willing to help a brother or sister that's going through some crap? How many suicide calls or someone that's going through a mental health crisis, how many of those calls have we gone to and tried to help that individual? Oh, we're getting paid to do it. Well, you're a pretty selfish individual if that's your only thought process. Pretty freaking selfish. But we're willing to do that for individuals, for our brother or sister that we're, sharing this world with, we're living in this subculture with, we're less likely to listen to them. Whether you like them or not. You may be someone that's looked at by other individuals as someone that's trustworthy, someone that gives good advice and so on and so forth. Whether you like someone's irrelevant because they're an individual too. They may have things going on that they need to talk about. You don't want to be that one person that could have helped and then didn't, and that person goes off and hurts himself or hurts someone else or does something felony stupid. So utilize this peer-to-peer support system. We all do it. We do it on a regular basis. Let's start using that for each other. Let's start looking out for our brothers and sisters the same as we would for an individual that we got a call on. That's a call for service. Let's start taking care of our own selves. Let's start taking care of our own community so that we can all thrive and make this thing better than what it already is. It's a team effort. And that team effort goes well beyond just the calls for service. So we're going to wrap up. There's a couple of things that I did want to share with you guys. One is on an individual basis. It's an individual basis, some things that an individual can use for themselves. This is provided by the First Help group. And as soon as I get this technology here figured out, I'm going to share this real quick. All right. So this is the range of resilience. You guys have heard me talk about resilience before. And in this, they use range as an acronym, as you can obviously see. Range, R, recognize the good. So when you're dealing with some stress, you're dealing with some depression, or whatever the case may be, recognize the good. Recognize the good that's around you. Recognize the good people. Recognize the good situations. Try to recognize those good things. I've said it before. You've heard me tell the story, and dealing with people that are contemplating suicide. Wake up every day and try to find one reason to live. Try to find one reason to live. That's recognizing the good. Finding one reason that's good enough for you to hang on just a little bit longer. Active, constructive responding. Active, constructive responding. So what that is constructive responding is not just, oh yeah, man, that sucks. I hear what you're saying, blah, 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 blah. It's okay. Well, tell me about it. What's going on? Well, have you thought about this? Have you looked at it this way? Have you considered these things? Active, constructive response, not just, oh, dang. That's not active, constructive response. That's just letting them throw some words at you and you just acknowledging what they say. So active, constructive responding, it's something you interact with, something you're trying to build on with them to get them back away from that edge a little bit. Notice the world around you. Noticing the world around you, what's actually going on. You guys have, if you've listened to the show for any amount of time, you've probably heard me say before that whenever you're going through something, the world's going to keep going. It's major and it's big for you, but it's not the end of the world. Tomorrow the sun's going to rise, the bird's going to chirp, all this blah. It's going to happen. So notice the world around you. Realize that the world's not this tunnel that you're looking into, but much broader picture. If you've heard me say before, see the forest for the trees. You got to see beyond the trees and actually see the forest. So that's what we're talking about here. Notice the world around you. Back yourself away from the situation just a little bit and see what's going on. Whether you're the one that's dealing with it or whether you're trying to help somebody with it, back away from that situation just a little bit so you can notice the world around you and what's going on. Another thing, guys, I'm probably saying this a little confusing. This is obviously more geared for the individual that's going through something. So like the active constructive responding would be active constructive response to someone when you're talking to them. They're trying to get stuff out of you. You're actually vocalizing and saying what it is that's going on with you. Active, constructive responding. Get up and move. That's one thing. And I was telling someone just the other day, people don't understand how much physical activity alone can be beneficial, can help you. Just that physical activity alone is going to release chemicals in your mind and do things that's going to help you as an individual de-stress, get some of that bad stuff out. Not only that, but it gives you time to think and go through these other things like recognizing the good and noticing the world around you. One of the things that I've really enjoyed doing when I've had things going on is we've got a track that goes around a pond or a lake, whatever you want to call it, not too far away from me. And I've gone there and I've knocked out 5 miles just walking around this thing, doing nothing but listening to some music and thinking about the world, thinking about things going on, So getting up and moving, getting that physical activity in, one, it's good for you. It's going to help your body out. And your bodies are designed to move and be active. But on top of it, we're going to get those serotonin dumps and this, that, and the other. We're going to get all this stuff. It's going to have time to think and see outside of a box to be able to start making a change in our minds. So get up and move. And then the last one is energy management. Guys, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not getting enough actual rest, you're wreaking havoc on your mental health. You're absolutely wreaking havoc on your mental health, whether it's because of a bad sleep pattern or whether it's you're just staying up thinking about things so much, or you're sleeping too much and now your body can just never actually re-energize. If you don't have proper rest for your body, it affects your mental state. That's one of the reasons why sleep deprivation is used as a interrogation tactic, why it's so effective, because being awake for so long jumbles the brain. The chemicals get messed up, the brain gets confused, and it starts making a whole lot of nonsense out of stuff. It's used as an interrogation technique because it loosens people up. It loosens that tongue up because they don't have the willpower after not sleeping for so long, because they don't have the willpower to keep fighting those questions. They start breaking down and communicating. It's one of the reasons why it's done that way. It affects us as individuals the same exact way. It affects us as individuals that same exact way, because if we're not getting the rest, our brain's just jumbling everything up. So we've got to manage that energy. You can't rely on, I didn't get enough sleep, so I'm going to sit here and drink me a cup of coffee. I'm going to find me another energy drink and stuff is fine for a temporary basis, but it is meant for moments. It is not meant for your general life. Especially when it's a pervasive issue that you're dealing with, not just a situational moment where I'm feeling a little run down. I need a candy bar, or I need an energy drink, or whatever the case is. We're talking about long-term management. We've got to be getting some rest. We've got to manage our energy output and our rest so that we can function and think properly. Okay. So I found that interesting when I was going through First Help's website. That was something that I liked. Especially when you're talking about an individual basis, recognizing the good, active, constructive responding, notice the world around you, get up and move, and energy management. That was worth mentioning to me. So in the other aspect that I wanted to show was talking about outreach. So if you're dealing with something, being able to go ahead and start finding resources, especially if you or someone else is going through a mental health crisis at the moment, some resources that can really help. The two that I wrote down in my notes here is First Help, and that's at www.1sthelp.org. So www.firsthelp.org. And then, of course, 988, which is the National Suicide and Crisis Hotline. That was something they changed a year or two ago. Instead of trying to remember this long phone number, they just switched it over to 988. So on any phone, you can dial 988 and you can get the National Suicide and Crisis Helpline. So the other thing that I wanted to share was just something similar to that. It's no shame, no judgment. This card that you're seeing on the screen right now. No shame, no judgment. Stay with us. You got choices. They all want to help. So on there, you can see, if you're actually watching, you can see the 988, which is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You've got the Firefighter Suicide Hotline, 24/7 law enforcement hotline. You can text BLUE, BLUE, to 741-741, and you can start getting some help that way. You've got Blue Line support. You've got the IAFF, that's the International Association of Firefighters. That's the Recovery Center. You can call that phone number. You've got the National Alliance for Mental Health or Mental Illness and First Responders First, 1-800-950-NAMI, 1-800-950-NAMI. And then, of course, you've got the firsthelp.net, www.firsthelp.net. You've got that one on there as well. So these are just another way of having a resource. So if you're if you're experiencing a mental health crisis, if you're going through a situation or something along those lines, this is another resource for you to be able to reach out to. And even if you're not the individual that's going through it, this is a resource that you can use to try to get that person help, especially if you don't know where to go yourself. Just because you don't know doesn't mean you can't help. At least try, at least put forth that effort. So that's just I wanted to get those resources out there. Big thanks to my buddy Chris for telling me about First Help. Those guys were a big help in getting the resources for this particular episode. And like I said, this is not the only one. This is not the only episode. This is at least going to be a two-parter when it comes to talking about mental health and public safety. This is at least going to be a two-part episode because I've got some other things planned. I've got at least one guest speaker that we're going to be talking with and getting to speak with. I think I've got a second one that I'm going to get on here, but I don't know if it's going to be as quick. So we'll play that by ear as we go. Guys, I apologize for the length of this episode. I know this episode has run much longer than a lot of the other ones. However, like I said, there is a ton of research and a ton of information that covers all this. And I hate that I kind of sped through it all so quick. But like I said, I wanted this particular episode to just be kind of an eye-opener, something that just kind of gets the tip of your tongue wet on what's going on and try to spur a little bit of interest on your part to get involved, get informed, and be able to help people. Give you guys some things to think about. So like I said, it's a lot of information crammed in such a very short amount of time. And personally, I believe I'm not 100% qualified to talk about everything that, if we were to try to do it on a much more expansive basis, I think I'd much rather prefer have somebody that, is more educated and more specific in that line of work to handle something like that. So this was really just kind of a taste of what's going on and getting you guys' minds in the space to understand what's going on in our community and our culture and how we as individuals can help, as we as leaders and as organizations, we can help those that are in this job and doing this and going through these things, because they're individuals too. And there's a lot less of us. Like I said, we make up 1.4% of the U.S. population. And the help for us is not as vast and is not as talked about as the help for the general population. So it's got to start somewhere, and we're better for it to start than us. So there you go. Guys, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. And I hope you guys have been able to get some information out of this. I hope you guys have been able to kind of follow along with my spastic mind at times and pull something out of this. And if you're somebody that's going through a crisis, or somebody that's going through a crisis, go back and look at those resources. Go back and do the research and find out, what you can do to help, or find out where you can get help for yourself. Because it is out there. There are people that want to help. There are people that want to see you keep on keeping on, as Joe Dirt would say. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to get through to everybody, is there's help out there, and that you're worth keeping around. So guys, I hope you got something out of it. I'm really excited to do this series, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right. Have a good one, guys. Bye.